lovely listeners, and welcome back to Willow's Wonderful Tales. Today's story is Chapter 2 of Not Seen Nor Heard. To say that Edgar Powell was irritated was an understatement. Alan's son was within his grasp, but that confounded woman who kept telling him that she was a ghost would not allow him inside the house to check. Inside the house, the child heard loud voices, and he peeked outside the window, seeing a man yelling at seemingly nothing. At that point, he decided he would just sneak out the back door. Moving away from the window, he snuck towards the back of the house and made his way out onto an unfamiliar street. Of course, he failed to notice that the detective had sharp eyes, and he saw the child. "Get back here, you little brat!" Turning around in terror, the child snuck a quick glance at the detective and decided that the man was even more scarier than his own father. With Edgar Powell chasing after him, he ran away as far as he could before disappearing into the fog-filled night. Gasping for air, the irritated detective threw down the first thing he could find in his pockets, which happened to be his cell phone. He threw it hard enough on the ground that it shattered the entire screen. Somehow, after a moment had passed, he was still able to receive a phone call on that very same phone. Gritting his teeth in anger, he answered the call and pressed the phone to his ear. "Hello? Mr. Powell, have you found my son yet? Is he all right?" He answered calmly at first. "Not yet, Mr. Allen. I'm still looking for him." "What do you mean, not yet? I'm not paying you to stroll around the city at night and have fun while my son is out there lost and alone." Now the detective was already in a bad mood, because he'd lost the boy while he was trying to chase him. Now his father was being extremely unhelpful by calling him every 30 minutes for no reason. Edgar also saw this as an opportunity to lose his temper. "Actually, you're not paying me at all. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a child that has a known history of running away? Who do you think I am, Sherlock Holmes, that I can perhaps determine which way he went just by looking at a shoe print? And let me tell you, Mr. Allen, calling me every 30 minutes will not make me find the boy any faster." Without giving the man a chance to respond, Edgar hung up his phone and threw it back down on the ground, angrily storming off in the direction of his home. The night was beginning to get even colder after all, and there were a few things that hadn't been making sense to him. It would be best to think things over and do some more research over a warm cup of tea back at home. He walked up the steps that led to his house and took out his keys, turning them into the lock and opening the door to his eerily silent house. He took off his coat and shoes, putting them away in their respective places before he went to his kitchen and placed a pot of water to boil on the stove, presumably for tea. Knowing that the water would take a few minutes to boil, he brought his laptop to the table and began doing some research on Mr. Allen, or James Allen, the very same man whose son had run away from him. Now, James Allen was a wealthy man who owned a publishing company, among other businesses, including a jewelry store. The son that had run away was named Peter Allen. 8 years old, very intelligent for his age, but perhaps a bit shy, at least to Edgar's observation. The thoughts that had been bothering the detective were, first of all, his son seemed to be scared of anyone that yelled. Now, of course, children are normally scared of people who yell, but his son was extremely afraid to go back to his father, it would seem, because he was avoiding the detective at every chance he could. And of course, Edgar couldn't catch a child because he couldn't run to save his life. Another thing that was bothering him was the appearance of that woman. The woman that only he could apparently see. He didn't think anyone would pretend to be a ghost purposefully. But why was she pretending to be a ghost? Or maybe she was a ghost. Just then, he heard the water boiling on the stove. Going over, he grabbed a cup from the cabinets, placed a tea bag inside, and poured the water in, letting it sit there for a few minutes while he thought, staring at the steam coming from the cup. Maybe the child was afraid of something, he thought to himself. Maybe the child's father was extra mean to him. Of course, he dare not think of other possibilities. But maybe it was true. I mean, why else would the child not want to go back home? Why would he rather stay out in the streets or in a strange house with a person he couldn't even see? As far as Edgar knew. I mean, he could see the woman, why couldn't anyone else see her? That was another thing that irritated him. But he supposed he would look at more information in the morning. It was getting well past midnight, and he still had to go into his office and sort things out. Hopefully the boy's father wouldn't decide to pay him a surprise visit. That would be annoying, and he didn't like it when people interrupted his work. Adding the milk into his tea, he took a couple of sips before leaving the cup on the counter and possibly going to bed.